Welcome, welcome, welcome to the deep dive. Right now, the air in the world of Test cricket is absolutely crackling, especially around this England versus India series.
Definitely feels tense.
Yeah, for India, there's a definite sense of unease, I think. They're already trailing 1-0 after, well, a pretty brutal first test at Headingley.
Brutal is a good word for it.
And as often happens, when a series takes an early turn like this, the spotlight has swung hard onto some key players.
It always does. The pressure ramps up immediately.
So our mission today, our deep dive, is to sort of pull back the curtain on one of cricket's most fascinating current dilemmas. The recent struggles of a player who, for years, has been an absolute cornerstone for India, Ravindra Jadeja.
A massive figure in their setup.
Exactly. We've gone through the latest insights, the sharpest analysis, and we're ready to unpack everything surrounding his performance, especially as we stand right on the cusp of the crucial second test at Edgbaston, which is about to get underway. Let's really dig into this.
Yeah, and it's important to understand this isn't just about, like, a star player having a quiet game. The debate is really heating up.
Right.
Is this simply a temporary dip in form for a seasoned veteran, or are we looking at something, maybe a bit more concerning for a senior figure at such a pivotal moment for his team?
That's the core question, isn't it?
It is. We're going to peel back the layers on the precise details of his recent performance, the strategic questions being lobbed by top experts, and ultimately what all of this could mean for India's World Test Championship aspirations. The stakes truly couldn't be higher.
And what an intense stage it was for things to seemingly unravel. Headingley leads June 20 to 24, 2025. That first test was a genuine gut punch for India.
No doubt, England secured a decisive 5-wicket victory.
And almost immediately, every single analysis shifted to dissecting India's individual contributions, or perhaps the lack thereof.
Yeah, the postmortem started quickly.
When you look at Jadeja's bowling figures from that Headingley match, they narrate a tale of real struggle.
They really do.
He bowled 47 overs, managed only 5 maidens, conceded a hefty 172 runs, and picked up just 1 solitary wicket.
1 wicket in 47 overs. Oof.
And what makes this even more striking is that he was India's designated primary specialist spinner. And surprisingly, no other specialist spinner was even brought into the attack during the match.
That decision itself raised some eyebrows, didn't it? Relying solely on him.
It did. Now, to be fair, his first innings economy rate was 2.95, which was technically the best among all Indian bowlers.
Okay, so he wasn't leaking runs uncontrollably in that first innings, relatively speaking.
Relatively, yeah. But when your main spinner bowls 47 overs for a single wicket, despite a decent economy, it just begs the question, where was the penetration? Where were the game-changing deliveries?
It's true. That economy rate can be deceptive sometimes. If we zoom in on the most glaring aspect, I think, it was his battle against England's Ben Duckett.
Ah, yes, Duckett really took him on.
Absolutely pummeled him. Scored 36 runs off just 16 balls from Jadeja's bowling.
Yeah.
And the weapon of choice, those audacious reverse sweeps.
Over and over again.
Yeah, this wasn't just a few lucky shots. It systematically seemed to dismantle Jadeja's usual rhythm and strategy. He couldn't seem to find an answer.
Looked visibly rattled at times.
He did. And his lone wicket, Ben Stokes in the second innings, came via a top edge. A wicket, yes, but by then England had already powered past 300 runs.
The damage was done.
Exactly. The momentum was firmly with them, and that wicket, while welcome, was far too late to genuinely alter the game's direction.
So after Headingley, the commentary came swift and, frankly, pretty pointed. There was the expected widespread disappointment among fans, naturally.
Of course.
But it was the seasoned cricket experts who really started asking the piercing questions.
They tend to cut through the noise, don't they?
A significant chunk of that criticism, the really incisive part, revolved around Jadeja's use, or more precisely, his lack of use of the rough patches on the pitch.
Ah, the rough. Always key for spinners in England later in a test.
Mark Butcher, speaking on the Wisden Cricket Weekly podcast, he voiced his utter astonishment. He declared he could not believe how poorly he bowled, really.
Yeah.
Not landing the ball in the rough at all until basically it was too late.
Wow, could not believe how poorly he bowled. That's strong stuff from Butcher.
It's pretty damning indictment, isn't it? It suggests a fundamental misjudgment or maybe an inability to execute that specific skill.
It absolutely does, and it raises a critical tactical question. Why was hitting those rough patches so incredibly crucial in Headingley? Sanjay Manjrekar echoed Butcher's concerns on GeoHotstar.
What did Manjrekar say?
He was quite direct. I am going to be critical of Jadeja. We have to expect more from someone of his experience. Felt he didn't use the rough nearly enough, especially against Duckett.
Right, against Duckett specifically.
Exactly. And for a spinner in English conditions, particularly as the pitch wears down, hitting those rough patches, the areas where the seamer's footmarks have made indentations, that's how you create natural variation.
That's where the magic happens for a spinner on those surfaces.
Precisely. You get exaggerated turn, unpredictable bounce, those unplayable deliveries that truly challenge the batters. It's not just about accuracy, it's about making the ball talk off the surface. The ability to exploit that rough is fundamental for an attacking spinner.
And if that's missing?
Then you effectively neutralize their primary threat. You become predictable.
We also heard from Varun Aaron, the former India fast bowler.
Oh, yeah. What was his take?
He observed that Jadeja bowled either too short or too fast, too full, which, sounds like he was just never quite hitting the right spot.
Yeah, that suggests inconsistency in length and pace, which basically means the English batters had a much clearer read on his deliveries. They could either go on the back foot easily or drive confidently on the front foot, disrupting his rhythm.
So the consensus among these analysts seems glaringly clear.
It really does. Jadeja needs to bowl slower, perhaps, utilize those rough patches far more effectively, and most crucially, vary his pace and length to keep the batsman consistently guessing. It's about adaptation to the conditions, which, well, it just seemed to be missing at Headingley.
So after all that expert analysis, what does this actually look like when we strip it down to the raw data? Because the numbers game here paints a pretty worrying trend for us.
Numbers don't lie, as they say. What are we seeing?
Since the 2024 India-New Zealand series, Jadeja's batting average sits at a modest 23, and his bowling average is 35 across 7 matches.
Okay, 23 with the bat, 35 with the ball. Not as usual high standards.
Not at all. And the truly sobering fact, India has lost 6 of those 7 matches.
6 out of 7, wow.
This isn't just about an individual dip in form. It undeniably highlights a broader team struggle that seems tightly linked to his current contributions, or lack thereof.
That's a crucial point. It's
Yeah.
never just one player, but when a key all-rounder isn't firing, it has a bigger impact. And what truly stands out here is when you examine his career bowling averages in specific overseas conditions.
Right, let's look at that.
In England, for instance, his average shoots up to 48.07.
48.07 in England.
And in New Zealand, it's even higher, a staggering 60.61.
60. That's huge.
It is. These figures are significantly, alarmingly higher than his overall career norms. They strongly indicate a persistent challenge he faces in SENA conditions that South Africa, England, New Zealand, and Australia, for anyone less familiar.
So this isn't entirely new, this struggle in certain overseas conditions.
No, it tells us this isn't a brand new phenomenon for him in these parts of the world. It's a pattern. And it suggests a fundamental struggle sometimes to adapt his left arm spin to pitches that offer less natural turn and maybe a bit more pace off the deck.
And to really underscore this statistical slump, you just have to glance at his recent drop out of the ICC top 10 bowlers rankings. He's now sitting at 13th.
It's dropping out of the top 10.
After being such a consistent fixture in the top echelon for so long, it's a stark indicator of current form, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It reflects that lack of recent impact wickets.
But hold on, let's not forget who we're talking about here. We're discussing Ravindra Jadeja, a true veteran of the game.
81 tests under his belt. That's a lot of experience.
He boasts a storied career, delivered so many memorable match-winning contributions over the years. You immediately recall his fantastic century right there at Edgbaston in 2021-22.
That was a brilliant knock. His first Test 100 outside India.
Monumental innings helped India post a formidable 416. Even though, England ultimately chased 378 to level that series, his contribution was immense.
It really was. Showed his batting class on a big stage.
And let's rewind even further.
Okay.
His instrumental performance in the 2013 Champions Trophy, also at Edgbaston.
Ah, the Champions Trophy final.
He was just a young 24-year-old then, but he scored a crucial 33 not out and took 2 for 24, contributing massively to India's victory in that rain-shortened final.
He was man of the match in that final, wasn't he? Just electric in the field, too.
Exactly. This isn't just a player who's delivered on the biggest stages. He's someone who has performed at this very ground, Edgbaston, multiple times.
It really makes you reflect on his journey, doesn't it? Particularly how that playful Sir nickname.
Yeah, where does that come from again?
Initially, it was sort of a joke, I think, after the 2009 World T20, maybe some fielding mishaps. but it evolved into a genuine badge of honor.
Right. It became a term of endearment, almost respect.
It really did. It encapsulated his sheer resilience, his dynamic all-round ability, his fielding brilliance, and his knack for turning games. Now, at 35, he's not just a senior player, he's one of the most senior.
Especially now.
Especially after the retirements of giants like Ashwin, Rohit Sharma, and Virat Kohli from the Test format over the last couple of years. The expectation on him isn't just to perform, it's to lead from the front.
A huge leadership role, particularly with the ball.
Exactly. To set the tone, particularly with the ball, where India is now looking for that primary spinner, that main threat.
So what becomes clear when you connect this expectation of leadership with his current form?
Is the growing disconnect. He hasn't managed to score above 30 in his last 6 Test innings.
6 innings without passing 30.
And his bowling struggles, that alarming lack of impact we discussed, it just raises serious questions about his ability to truly lead the charge, especially with the ball, in these high-stakes matches.
Yeah.
For an all-rounder of his caliber, whose value stems from contributing significantly in both departments, a slump across the board creates a far greater challenge for the team than, say, a specialist batter or bowler having a bad day.
It leaves a bigger hole.
A much bigger hole. It's a truly challenging period for him to be trying to find his feet again, right when the team needs his experience most.
And now, as we speak, all eyes are turning to the immediate future. The immense pressure building around the second Test at Edgbaston, which is set to begin tomorrow, July 2, 2025.
Huge match. Absolutely massive.
This match isn't just important. It is absolutely critical for India to claw their way back into this series. You feel they have to win this one, or at least not lose it.
1-0 down, away from home.
Yeah.
That pressure is immense.
Given Jadeja's struggles, particularly with his natural bowling speed, perhaps hindering him in these English conditions, tactical suggestions are already flying around from experts.
What are people suggesting?
One strong suggestion being floated is playing another specialist spinner, like Kuldeep Yadav, alongside Jadeja.
Kuldeep, the wrist spinner. That would be interesting.
What's interesting about that is it would offer a very different dimension, a wrist spinner compared to Jadeja's left-arm orthodox, and perhaps take some of the immense pressure off Jadeja to be the sole wicket-taking spinner.
That makes sense tactically. Give the batters a different look, share the load.
It's a strategic move that speaks volumes about the current concerns around Jadeja's bowling form, wouldn't you say?
It truly does, and it sparks an intriguing debate among fans and analysts alike. Is this a temporary slump that Jadeja, with all his experience and resilience, can simply shake off? Can he rediscover his rhythm and bounce back?
Or the alternative?
Or is it a more fundamental sign of declining effectiveness in overseas tests, particularly in places like England and New Zealand, where his strengths might not translate as readily as they do in, say, India?
That's the million-dollar question.
It really is. The answer to that question will undeniably have significant implications for India's World Test Championship aspirations. Every point truly matters in the WTC cycle, and India needs their senior players firing on all cylinders.
So looking ahead, what does he need to do? What's the path back?
Well, looking ahead, what Jadeja absolutely must focus on is perhaps a return to basics, but with a crucial adaptation.
Okay.
That means contributing more consistently with the bat, for starters. That takes pressure off the bowlers generally.
Easing the bird.
Exactly. And crucially, fundamentally adapting his bowling to the unique demands of English pitches. That means finding that elusive ideal length, varying his pace more effectively, and yes, consistently hitting those rough patches that are so vital for a spinner to extract anything meaningful here.
It sounds simple, but it's clearly proving difficult.
It's about rediscovering that feel, perhaps reinventing small aspects of his game for these conditions.
Now, beyond Edgbaston, the series isn't over, of course. There's still 3 more vital tests. Lord's from July 10 to 14, Manchester from July 23 to 27, and the Oval from July 31 to August 4.
Plenty of cricket still to be played.
These are, without a doubt, opportunities for Jadeja to turn things around. But his performance in these upcoming matches is going to be absolutely pivotal for India, not just to level this series, but to stay firmly in contention for that coveted World Test Championship final.
The spotlight isn't going away anytime soon.
Not at all. So the stage is set, not just for India, but for Ravindra Jadeja himself in this truly crucial series. The question hangs in the air, weighted with expectation. Will he rediscover the magic, the resilience, the all-round brilliance that not only defined his career, but also earned him that revered Sir moniker?
It's a fascinating predicament, isn't it? In a sport where narratives can shift in an instant, what does Jadeja's current situation teach us about the relentless demands placed on even the most seasoned athletes?
That's a tough school, international sport.
It really is, particularly when they're faced with unfamiliar conditions where their very signature strengths, like Jadeja's natural speed and accuracy off the pitch, suddenly seem to become liabilities almost.
Yeah, when your greatest weapon isn't working.
Exactly. It begs the question, how does a player of his immense caliber adapt or even reinvent when their go-to methods just aren't working against escalating expectations? It's a challenge that, in some form, I think touches every high performer in any field, really, when their once reliable tools suddenly feel blunt. How do you respond? It'll be fascinating to watch.